Ladies, let me talk to you for a minute because this is something too many women learn the hard way. If a man is using a woman, he may say all the right things, but his behavior will tell the truth every single time. Men don't lie with actions. They lie with words. So if you want to know whether a man is genuinely invested or just passing time, you don't listen harder, you watch closer. Here are 6 behaviors that reveal when a man is using a woman. First behavior, he only shows up when it's convenient for him. When a man is using a woman, the first thing you'll notice is that he shows up only when it's convenient for him. And this behavior is subtle at first, almost easy to excuse if you're not paying attention. He doesn't completely disappear because disappearing would expose his intentions too quickly. Instead, he appears just enough to keep the connection alive, just enough to make you believe you matter, but never enough to feel secure. His timing is always perfect for him and rarely aligned with your needs, your schedule, or your emotional state. When he's lonely, stressed, bored, or needs reassurance, he suddenly remembers your number, your messages, your presence. But when you need support, consistency, or reliability, he somehow becomes busy, tired, overwhelmed, or unreached. You'll notice that his availability follows a pattern, not your well-being. Late night calls, last-minute plans, sudden check-ins after days of silence all become normal. He doesn't plan ahead because planning requires intention, and intention requires accountability. Everything is spontaneous, rushed, or loosely defined so he can exit without explanation whenever something better comes along. If you question it, he'll frame it as flexibility, independence, or his personality, making you feel unreasonable for wanting structure and effort. This kind of man is very skilled at making you feel special in moments, but neglected over time. When he does show up, he may be charming, affectionate, and convincing, almost as if he's trying to make up for his absence in one concentrated burst. He gives just enough attention to reset your hope, just enough warmth to quiet your doubts, and just enough words to keep you emotionally invested. But once his immediate need is satisfied, the effort fades again, leaving you wondering what changed, replaying conversations, and questioning yourself instead of his behavior. Convenience-driven presence often comes with excuses that sound reasonable on the surface. Work is stressful. Life is complicated. He's dealing with personal issues. He doesn't like pressure. He needs space. All of these things can be true, but consistency doesn't disappear in someone who genuinely cares. A man who values you doesn't make you feel like access to him is a privilege you have to earn or wait for. He doesn't treat your time as optional or your feelings as something that can be addressed later. Over time, this behavior trains you to lower your expectations without realizing it. You stop asking for more because you don't want to seem demanding. You start adjusting your schedule just in case he reaches out. You become grateful for basic effort and call it progress. The imbalance grows quietly, with you giving patience, understanding, and emotional availability while he gives presence only when it fits neatly into his life. That's not partnership. That's convenience disguised as connection. What makes this behavior particularly damaging is that it creates confusion instead of clarity. If he were completely absent, the answer would be obvious. But because he shows up sometimes, you stay stuck in the in-between, holding on to moments instead of patterns. You remember how good it feels when he's there, and ignore how often he's not. You tell yourself he'll change once things settle down, once he realizes your value, once the timing is right. But convenience is a choice, not a phase. People prioritize what matters to them, even when life is busy, even when circumstances are difficult. When a man only shows up when it suits him, he's telling you exactly where you fit in his life, not through words, but through repeated action. And the longer this pattern continues, the more energy you pour into waiting instead of receiving, hoping instead of feeling secure, adjusting instead of being met, existing in his spare time, rather than being intentionally chosen in his everyday life. Second behavior, he avoids commitment but enjoys commitment benefits. When a man avoids commitment but still enjoys commitment benefits, it creates a dynamic where he gets everything he wants without carrying any responsibility. He wants the comfort of knowing someone is emotionally attached to him, the security of having a woman who is loyal, available, and invested. Yet he refuses to define the relationship or take ownership of it. He speaks in vague terms, keeping things open-ended so he can enjoy closeness without obligation. Whenever the conversation moves toward clarity, he becomes uncomfortable, changes the subject, or reminds you that he doesn't like pressure, as if asking for direction and honesty is somehow unreasonable. This kind of man is very deliberate about staying in the gray area. He will say things like, let's see where this goes, or I'm not ready for label right now, not because he's confused, but because confusion benefits him. Labels bring expectations, accountability, and standards, and he is interested in any of those as long as he's getting what he wants. He wants exclusivity without commitment, support without sacrifice, and access without promises. By avoiding definition, he keeps his freedom intact while benefiting from your emotional consistency. You'll notice that he expects behavior from you that reflects commitment. He wants you to be understanding of his schedule, patient with his moods, supportive of his goals, and emotionally available when he needs reassurance. He may even get uncomfortable or jealous at the idea of you entertaining someone else, despite refusing to commit himself. That contradiction is a clear sign that he wants control, not partnership. He enjoys the security of knowing you're there, while reserving the right to leave without explanation. Over time, this dynamic places all the emotional labor on you. You're the one waiting for clarity, wondering where you stand, and hoping your loyalty will eventually inspire him to choose you fully. You invest time, energy, and feelings into something that remains undefined, while he keeps his options open. If you express your needs, he may accuse you of pushing too hard or trying to force something that should be natural. In reality, commitment is only a problem for someone who doesn't want to give it. Avoiding commitment while enjoying its benefits also allows him to escape accountability. If he hurts you, disappoints you, or pulls away, he can always fall back on the excuse that nothing was officially agreed upon. He can rewrite the rules whenever it suits him, because the rules were never clearly set. This leaves you questioning your right to feel upset, as if expecting respect and consistency requires a signed agreement rather than basic emotional responsibility. What makes this behavior especially harmful is how it slowly erodes your sense of worth. You begin to believe that if you just prove yourself enough, if you're patient enough, if you don't ask for too much, he'll eventually commit. You start negotiating your needs instead of honoring them. You stay because of potential, not reality. And because walking away feels harder than continuing to hope. A man who truly values you doesn't fear commitment, because commitment isn't a trap to him, it's a decision he makes willingly. He understands that clarity brings peace, not pressure. When a man avoids commitment but enjoys the benefits, he's showing you that he wants access to your life without being responsible for his place in it. And that imbalance keeps you emotionally invested while he remains comfortably uncommitted. Third behavior: he doesn't invest, he consumes. When a man takes more than he gives, the imbalance doesn't always announce itself loudly at the beginning. In fact, it often starts quietly, disguised as circumstances, personality differences, or temporary phases. At first, you may not even notice it, because you're naturally giving, caring, and hopeful. You offer your time, your understanding, your emotional presence, and your energy without keeping score. But over time, you begin to realize that the flow is mostly one-directional. He receives comfort, attention, validation, and support, while you are left waiting for the same level of effort in return. This kind of man becomes very comfortable being poured into. He leans on you when he's tired, frustrated, or unsure of himself. He unloads his problems, his stress, his fears, and his disappointments, and you listen, encourage, and reassure him. Your presence becomes his safe place, but he doesn't feel the need to become yours. When you're overwhelmed or emotionally drained, he may listen briefly or offer surface-level responses before shifting the focus back to himself. The relationship slowly becomes a space where his needs take priority and yours are postponed. You'll notice that he benefits from your emotional labor without recognizing its value. He expects you to be patient when he's distant, understanding when he's inconsistent, and forgiving when he disappoints you. He takes your flexibility for granted and assumes your availability is unlimited. Meanwhile, his effort remains minimal. He doesn't check in consistently, doesn't go out of his way to support your goals, and doesn't anticipate your needs the way you anticipate his. The imbalance becomes your responsibility to manage while he enjoys the comfort of receiving. Taking more than he gives also shows up in practical ways. You may find yourself paying more, traveling more, adjusting more, and sacrificing more. You're the one making space in your life for him, reshaping your schedule, and prioritizing his preferences. He accepts these sacrifices without hesitation, rarely stopping to ask what it costs you. When you finally speak up, he may act surprised as if he had no idea you were giving so much, even though he's been benefiting from it all along. Emotionally, this dynamic slowly drains you. Giving without receiving creates fatigue, resentment, and self-doubt. You start wondering if you're asking for too much when all you want is balance. You question whether your needs are valid or excessive. Instead of feeling appreciated, you feel used, but you hesitate to name it because he hasn't done anything overtly cruel. He hasn't taken everything at once, just enough over time to leave you depleted. A man who takes more than he gives often believes his presence alone is a contribution. He assumes that showing up occasionally, sending a message, or spending time with you is enough to justify everything he receives. He doesn't understand that relationships thrive on reciprocity, not entitlement. Because he isn't investing deeply, he doesn't feel the weight of imbalance the way you do. He feels comfortable while you feel stretched. What makes this pattern difficult to break is that giving becomes part of your identity in the relationship. You pride yourself on being supportive, loving, and patient. You tell yourself that love requires sacrifice, that everyone gives in different ways, that things will even out eventually. But they don't even out when one person is always taking and the other is always adjusting. Over time, the relationship stops feeling nourishing and starts feeling like work, where your role is to provide and his role is to receive. And the more you give hoping for change, the more he learns that he doesn't have to give much at all. Fourth behavior, he keeps you hidden. When a man keeps you hidden from his real life, it rarely feels like a clear rejection at first. It often comes wrapped in explanations that sound reasonable, even considerate. He says he's private, that he doesn't like people in his business, that he wants to protect the relationship from outside opinions. At first, you may accept this, because privacy can be healthy. But over time, you begin to notice that his privacy has boundaries, and those boundaries don't include you. You exist in a separate space, one that never fully overlaps with the rest of his world. You are present in moments that are convenient and controlled, but absent from the parts of his life that matter. You don't meet his close friends, family doesn't know about you, and his social life continues as if you don't exist. Important events come and go without your presence. And when you ask why, there's always a reason that places you just outside the circle. He may say it's not the right time, or that things are complicated, or that he prefers to keep things simple. But simplicity for him means invisibility for you. This kind of behavior slowly creates a sense of being compartmentalized. You are not woven into his daily life. You are slotted into it. You are someone he sees, not someone he integrates. His social media tells a story that doesn't include you. His future plans are discussed without clear reference to where you fit. You begin to feel like you're only part of his life in private moments, while his public identity remains untouched by your presence. What makes this especially painful is that being hidden often goes hand in hand with emotional closeness. He may share personal thoughts, spend intimate time with you, and make you feel important behind closed doors. This contrast can be confusing because emotionally, he lets you in, but practically, he keeps you out. You start to question whether wanting acknowledgement is selfish, whether asking to be included is asking for too much. He may reinforce this doubt by framing your concern as insecurity rather than a natural desire to be recognized. Keeping you hidden also protects him from accountability. When no one knows about you, he answers to no one about how he treats you. He can disappear without explanation, act inconsistently, or keep his options open without scrutiny. You remain easy to step away from because you are not anchored in his world. If things end, there are no questions to answer, no overlap to untangle, no social consequences to face. Over time, this dynamic affects how you see yourself. You may start shrinking your expectations, telling yourself that being included isn't necessary, that love doesn't need witnesses. But deep down, you feel the absence. You feel it when you celebrate milestones alone, when you can't share moments that matter. When you realize that the person you care about most hasn't fully claimed you. Being hidden sends a quiet message that you are not meant to stay, only to exist temporarily. A man who values you wants you to be part of his life, not just part of his routine. He doesn't hide what he's proud of, and he doesn't separate love from life. When you are kept in the shadows, it's not because you don't matter, but because acknowledging you would require him to be honest about his intentions. And the longer you remain hidden, the more the relationship feels unreal. like something that exists only in private moments, without roots, without visibility, without a place in the world. He openly lies. Fifth behavior. He dismisses your feelings. When a man dismisses or minimizes your feelings, it often begins in ways that are easy to overlook. He doesn't outright tell you that your emotions don't matter. Instead, he responds in tones and phrases that quietly reduce their importance. When you bring up something that hurt you, he says you're overthinking. When you express discomfort, he tells you it's not a big deal. When you ask for understanding, he suggests you're being too sensitive. Each response seems small on its own, but together they form a pattern that slowly teaches you to doubt your emotional reality. This behavior creates a dynamic where your feelings become problems instead of information. Instead of listening to understand, he listens to defend himself or shut the conversation down. Your emotions are treated like inconveniences that interrupt his comfort rather than signals that something needs attention. Over time, you learn that expressing yourself leads to dismissal, so you begin to hold things in. You start choosing silence over conflict, not because you feel resolved, but because you feel unheard. A man who minimizes your feelings often reframes situations in a way that makes you question your perception. If you say his actions hurt you, he insists he didn't mean it that way, as if intention erases impact. If you say you feel neglected, he lists everything he has done, shifting the focus away from how you feel and toward why you shouldn't feel that way. Slowly, the conversation becomes less about resolving issues and more about you justifying your emotions. This kind of response can be deeply destabilizing because it blurs the line between emotional disagreement and emotional invalidation. You're not asking him to feel exactly what you feel, but you're asking him to acknowledge it. When he refuses to do even that, it sends a message that your inner experience is unimportant. Over time, this erodes your confidence in your own emotional judgment. You begin to second guess whether your reactions are reasonable or exaggerated, whether your needs are real or excessive. Minimizing your feelings also allows him to avoid responsibility. If your pain is dismissed as drama, there's no need for him to change his behavior. If your concerns are labeled as insecurity, he doesn't have to examine his inconsistency. This shifts the burden onto you, making it your job to adjust, calm down, or toughen up while he remains comfortable and unchanged. The relationship becomes one-sided, with emotional growth demanded of you but not of him. Over time, this dynamic affects how you show up in the relationship. You may become quieter, less expressive, more careful with your words. You start editing yourself to avoid being told you're too much. You might even apologize for feeling hurt, as if having emotions requires permission. The more you suppress, the more disconnected you feel, not just from him, but from yourself. Emotional safety disappears when your feelings are consistently minimized. What makes this especially painful is that emotional validation doesn't require agreement, only respect. A man who values you doesn't have to fully understand your feelings to take them seriously. When he refuses to do that, he's choosing comfort over connection. And when your emotions are repeatedly dismissed, the relationship stops being a place of understanding and becomes a place where you feel unseen, unheard, and slowly trained to accept less emotional care than you deserve. Sixth behavior, he benefits from your growth but doesn't support it. When a man benefits from you but doesn't support your growth, the imbalance can feel confusing because on the surface, he appears present. He enjoys the version of you that shows up strong, capable, loving, and resourceful. He relies on your emotional stability, your wisdom, your resilience, and your ability to hold things together. Your growth becomes a comfort zone for him, something he leans on without acknowledging the effort it took you to become that person. Yet, when it comes to actively supporting your evolution, his enthusiasm fades. You may notice that he is quick to accept the advantages of your progress, but slow to encourage the process behind it. He appreciates your success when it benefits him, but he doesn't celebrate it in ways that feel genuine. When you talk about new goals, ideas, or changes, his responses are lukewarm, dismissive, or subtly discouraging. He might question your decisions, minimize your ambitions, or joke about your dreams in a way that takes the edge off your excitement. What should feel like encouragement instead feels like resistance. This kind of man is comfortable with your growth as long as it does to challenge his position in your life. When you become more confident, independent, or self-aware, he may feel threatened rather than inspired. Instead of rising with you, he tries to keep things the same. He benefits from the stability you provide, but he resists anything that might shift the balance of power or require him to grow alongside you. Your improvement highlights his stagnation, and rather than addressing that, he subtly pulls you back. You might notice that during difficult phases of your growth, when you need patience, reassurance, or practical support, he becomes distant. He enjoys the results but avoids the work. When you are tired, uncertain, or stretched thin, he offers little understanding. He may even frame your struggles as inconveniences, expecting you to remain strong and composed at all times. The moment your growth demands effort from him, his support disappears. Over time, this dynamic creates a quiet pressure for you to stay the same. You begin to hesitate before sharing new goals because you anticipate his lack of enthusiasm. You shrink your dreams to keep the peace. You tell yourself that not everyone knows how to support growth, that maybe you were asking for too much. But deep down, you feel the absence of encouragement, and it weighs on you. Growth thrives in environments where it, nurtured, not merely tolerated. A man who does support your growth may also unconsciously rely on your progress to compensate for his lack of direction. Your clarity, discipline, and emotional intelligence become resources he draws from without developing them himself. He benefits from the woman you becoming while contributing nothing to the journey. This creates a relationship where one person evolves and the other coasts, enjoying the view without walking the path. What makes this especially damaging is that growth is not just about achievement, it's about becoming more yourself. When the person closest to you doesn't support that process, it creates inner conflict. You feel torn between staying connected and staying true to who you are becoming. You sense that your expansion creates distance, not because you're changing for the worse, but because he's unwilling to meet you at a higher level. And the longer you remain in that space, the more you realize that love without support eventually feels like a place where your growth is enjoyed, but never truly honored.